the agenda for this week. Just a reminder that this is a B week, so you do not need to do a formative on Friday. I try to make it light on Friday anyway, just because I need to do attendance. But all in all, it is usually not something that takes up too much of your time. But this is a B week, so you don't have to worry about it on Friday. Just today and Wednesday. Also, I was sort of finalizing the grade book this past weekend, and I wanted to go over the final elements of the assignments that will play out over this week and next week. You know that the main thing right now is your project that you devised. So I just took a screenshot of the assignments here in the grade book, and you should see all of these available to you when you look on the portal. These first 3 grades are already in, the conference, the rubric, and your formatives up until last Thursday, because I usually give 2 grades for the formatives, a daily grade at progress report and a major grade at the end of the term of the 6 weeks. So that one's in over here. So the 17th or the 18th or the 22nd or whatever day, I'll go in and I'll look at the average of your formatives. I don't think it does this for you. I don't think it averages your percentages of your scores. It does do that for me. So if you think something's out of whack when I put in those percentages, let me know. But I don't think it does that in your view. I think it tells you your score on each individual one, but not like from a span from the beginning of this time to this time. But I can set it the range so that it says from November 9th until December 17th. Oh wait, there's a chat. Yeah, it just gives you your 1 to 5, not your average. You could do it mathematically if you felt like adding it up, but most people, the questions in this class for formatives aren't too, too difficult. They're usually just thoughtful questions. So they're designed to help you think about, your pathway and your decisions that you're making and elements about next steps and all that sort of thing. This week, I think the questions are about demographics at college, student demographics. All right, so then project number 2, some people have already turned that in. It is already available. If you go back to Classroom, you can see that this one right here, project number 2, there's the assignment. Nobody in this class has turned it in, but a few people in the other section have already turned it in. And you can see it, you can submit it there. I'm also gonna have you submit a self-evaluation for project number 2 at the same time that you do your project, because you created the scoring rubric, and I'm interested in finding out how you're going to score yourself using that rubric. And then what I'll do is I'll look at your evaluation and determine if I think you're on the money or not. And so in that way, we'll collaborate on your grade for the project. I'll go through the evaluation, the self-evaluation with you in just a second, but that's where that grade is gonna go. That's a daily grade. Semester exam is not anything that you need to do. The semester exam is a placeholder there. When we're finished with the semester and I have all the grades in, I'll go back and take an average of your first, second, and third 6 weeks and put that in as your semester exam. In other words, we're not taking a semester exam. You can just, I'll just be putting in the average there. I didn't mean to do that. And then this is the formative for those. So these are the last grades. Really the main thing right now is the project and the self-evaluation for that. Are there any questions about those grades? No. All right, so the project is due, I know it says on here the 17th, but that's not right, it's the 19th. The grade book, unfortunately, or the portal as you guys see it, does not allow us to make things due on the weekends or after the term is over. So in the grade book, what you'll see is it will say the 17th, which is the last day I can make anything due. But then in the description, I wrote that it's really due on the 19th. So the project is not due until the 19th, which is the Saturday after we leave on break. But like I said, you can turn that in early. Now, there is also a self-evaluation. that I want you to do along with your project. Let me go back to that. If you click down here where it says project number 2, self-evaluation, that's the one I'm going to talk about. So when you turn in your project, I also want you to submit the self-evaluation. It should make a copy for you. I'm going to go through it so that you know what to do. But basically, you're going to use your rubric that we collaborated on. In our conference, we talked about your rubric, anything that I thought you might need to add. I helped some people work on some of their criteria, and some people had already done theirs and it looked great. So we just sort of said, oh, cool rubric. But in any case, this 3-panel self-evaluation, I want this to come along with your project so that I can get a feel for where you're grading yourself. So in this section right here, you're going to paste in the link of your rubric so that I can find it easily. Do you want me to go over how to get a link for a document from your Google Drive, or does everybody know how to do that? If I don't hear anything, I'm just going to assume everybody knows how to get a link for a document. Nothing in chat. Okay, so you paste your link here, and that way when I'm looking at your self-evaluation, I can just click there and really easily your rubric will come up. I don't have to go searching for it. Then from your rubric that you created, you're going to go ahead and put in your categories. A lot of people had categories like organization, engagement, sources, what else? Depth, right? Like whatever was in the left-hand column of your rubric in terms of criteria, you're going to put that same thing here. And then I want you to tell me where you think you are on the scale of your rubric for each one of those items, and then right over here an explanation of, you know, what is it in your project that makes you think that you fall in that category. So I'll look at your project, I'll open your self-evaluation and your rubric, and I'll be looking to see, do I agree with where you're placing yourself on that rubric? Now, I could disagree because, you know, maybe you say that you give yourself hundreds and everything, and, you know, it's a slideshow of 2 slides or something that's not comprehensive, then I would have to disagree with you. Or sometimes people are hard on themselves and they give themselves a harder grade than they deserve, and I'll be like, they'll be like, oh, I think I get a 91, I could have done better. And I'll be like, I think it's 100. So I have veto power of the grade, but I want to know where you think you are. Probably 85 to 90% of the time, I think that the students are on the mark with it. So whenever I do this, usually you guys are your worst critics, but usually I pretty much agree with your self-evaluation. But you're going to put your evidence here. This doesn't have to be long. It can just, you know, put in what you did in your project that meets that goal of whatever you're saying is there. The second slide is where I want you to put in what you think your overall grade should be. So you can just go ahead and type in, well, I think I get a 90 or whatever. And then, you know, when I'm looking at your project, I'll see if I agree. Down here, I want you to reflect in a sentence or two about the most important thing that you learned through the project and advice that you would have for others who will do the project. And then the last page is for anything else that you want me to know about your work on the project. Maybe there was something that you discovered that you think was especially helpful. Maybe you enjoyed doing the project and you want to tell me about why. Maybe you didn't enjoy doing the project and you want to tell me why. But just sort of, this is sort of like a reflection piece. So I'll be using this to help me figure out what your final grade is on your project. Are there any questions about that? You can find it right here. There is a grade for the self-evaluation, so do make sure that you do it. And like I said, usually I take people's advice on what they think their grade should be. But I'm going to look at it and give you some feedback on your project. All right, no comments, no chats. All right. The last thing I wanted to talk about today is to do a little lesson for you about visual engagement. Many of you are doing projects that require, that are visual. In other words, you're doing a slideshow or you're doing a video or an infographic, something that's visual. I would say probably 85 to 90% of the students in this course are doing that. So I wanted to talk about engagement versus creativity and the reasons why we make some choices that we do when we're working on a visual project. Now, I'm not talking about if you have a non-visual project. If you're making a audio blog, or if you are making a research paper, then this does not apply to you, but maybe you'll be doing a project that involves visuals second semester. So I made a little slideshow here about visual engagement that I want to go through a little bit. And I think that when we're coming up through school, a lot of times, we do projects and, we make a diorama or we make a poster or whatever we do. And the teacher just says, oh, make it pretty or put glitter on it or make sure that it's in color. And we don't ever really address why we do those things, why that's important, because those things are important and there's a reason. It has to do with visual engagement. So I created for you this slideshow all about visual engagement. Sorry, I'm gonna have to sip my tea because it's a little chilly in my room today. You will notice that on this slideshow about visual engagement, I made the most boring possible intro slide to the slideshow about visual engagement, because I feel like if I entered a classroom and this was up on the screen, I would not be too thrilled about the lesson that was going to be coming from this slideshow. Why? Because it looks like my instructor did not really care in any way to make it something that I would be interested in learning. And it's not that it doesn't catch my attention, it kind of does, but that's not the goal. The goal is communication or learning. And one of the ways that we can do that is through visual engagement. So if I walked in and this was on the screen, I'd be like, okay, great. I'm gonna take some notes, try to stay awake, whatever. But if I walked in and I saw the same information in a different format, maybe it would interest me a little more in the topic. Now, it's not just about interest. It doesn't stop at interest. It's not about catching your attention, which is what a lot of people tell me. Oh, I'm going to use a template to catch people's attention. Yes, catch attention, but the reason is so that we can communicate, right? I'm going to talk about that in a second. But you can see this is a lot more visually engaging. I'm looking at it, it's the same exact information, but for some reason, I'm drawn to it more, which means I'm going to be more involved in learning about whatever it is presented in that slideshow. The communication is already piquing my interest, all right? So it's not only about these things. Make it pretty, make it creative, get people's attention, make it sparkly. It's really about more than that. The reason we do those things is because we can actively communicate. We can't communicate if we can't get people's attention. So it's not about the attention, it's about the communication that comes after the attention, if that makes sense to you. So that's why instructors will sometimes make PowerPoints or slideshows or videos or whatever that have elements to them that help you learn. And I'm going to talk about those today. Think about your project as an opportunity, not just to learn for yourself, but also to teach the people who are looking at your project and help them learn something as well. We do know a few things about how the brain works in terms of education. We don't know a lot about how the brain works. There's brain theory research going on all the time, but we do know that color, which is the easiest way probably to engage your viewer, affects the ability to focus. And the more we use color to our advantage, the more we can get somebody to focus on our message. Focus affects our ability to remember. The more I'm focused on something, the more I can remember it. The more I remember it, the easier it is for me to learn it. So that's why color coding, color elements in a visual representation can be helpful in getting your message across. You can see it just with that simple shift from the last slide, from this slide to this slide. You can see that by taking these words and color coding them and adding some color over here, the slide is much more engaging, and I'm likely to remember these three words because now they're visually more impactful to me. And that message of focus equals remembering equals learning is clearer to my audience. I'd rather have this brain anyway. So you can think about the principles of design. Maybe you've never studied design, But there are principles that you can use to help your message come across more clearly in a visual setting. Things like color and shape and size. Mainly, I'm going to talk about color because I think it's the thing that people use the most, but there are others. You can use different type styles to make emphasize things and de-emphasize things. You can make sure things are spaced so that it's easy for the eye to travel through the material that you're presenting. But these are the elements of design that you can consider. Now, let's take an example. I have seen slideshows from students where they were told to make a slideshow and all they did was put information on slides. Well, that's totally pointless because the point of a slideshow, as soon as you're assigned to make a slideshow, is that it needs to be a visual representation. So it's supposed to visually help us learn, but just putting a bunch of text on a slide does not do that. You might as well write a paper. So when you're thinking about a visual representation to help somebody learn, you have to start thinking about tools that you can use to help that happen. It's not the best, but I could go through and highlight the main points of each section of the text that I've written there. Then maybe the person who's looking at it could, kind of clue into those different ones that are color, highlighted. Maybe I want to bold it too so that those things stand out. But, if I'm just reading from the slide, that's not very engaging. This is like a barely step up from the previous slide in terms of engagement, but it does help learning because these things that are highlighted will help somebody to focus on those topics. Here's another improvement, right? I could put little headings here that give the key term for each segment of the information that I'm presenting. And then you can see that I've added a light bubble in the background of the same color to kind of highlight key word or phrase from that section, and it's color coded there. So the purple section, the green section, the blue section, the orange section. So that is maybe a little step up from that one, right? Because of the headings. But I could also make a infographic. And you can see this is a much more dynamic and engaging way to represent information because now there are little icons, right? And if I put it in black and white, it's okay. I still have the icons and I still have the information sort of grayscaled. But over here is superior because I can see that these items are all separate, right? And there's an icon that matches it. And so the vivid quality of this helps me to segment it if I'm learning different facts or different pieces of information. So the way that we make choices in terms of color coding, images that we might add, etc., all of that needs to contribute to the message of the visual representation. And I'm hoping that that helps some of you who are doing visual projects. Same thing if you're making a video. You just have to think about what are the visual elements, and you can go back to that slide on principles of design to help you. Things that will help you with making, video elements. So, any questions on how visual representations and visual choices that we make in our slides and videos and other, infographics will affect the ability for somebody to learn from our project? Comments? Questions? No? Okay. Well, each week we've been working on this project, I've been talking about a different element of the projects. So you can go back through the videos for the class periods if you're getting close to finishing your project and you want to revisit. One week I was talking about audience. Another week I was talking about choosing an appropriate vehicle for your research. Instead of just picking something, picking a topic and picking a vehicle, making sure that the vehicle works well with the topic. And today I was talking about visual engagement. So I'm trying to give you these little mini overviews to help you with those aspects of your project to make it the best that it can be. That's pretty much all I have for you this week. Are there any questions?
No, ma'am.
No, everybody just Everybody's just focused on other stuff this week, I know. It's okay. Last year, this time you were focused on my stuff, so it's all right. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go then. Go and use your time wisely, and I will see you again next Monday. And oh, okay. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please just email me, communicate with me, let me know how I can help you. Okay? All right. I hope you all have a good week.
Bye, Miss.
Bye. Talk to you later. Good luck on
Miss,
your
have a good day.
exams. Bye, you too.
Bye, Miss. Have a good day.
Bye, you too.